Welcome to the Lights Out Podcast. This is Chris Lights Out Lidell, and this is our journey to document the history of mixed martial arts. I have brought with me my friend, the MMA detective Mike Davis, and together we will preserve the history and hear some great stories from the world in the era of the no holds barred. Thank you and enjoy.
Ladies and gentlemen, special guest at the Lights Out Podcast, a gentleman that went 11-1-1 over a 2-year period, UFC vet, Paul Jones. Paul, thanks for joining us, buddy.
Thanks for having me. Great to be on here.
So you're kind of one of those MMA's big what ifs, what happened to type guys. Your listed record is 11-1-1, but this was kind of like in an era during no holds barred where some of the records were kept, some weren't. What was your overall fight record at the end of your career?
20 wins, 1 loss, and then the one draw there with Paulson.
Okay. And what's not on your record was a tournament win where you met Heath Herring in the finals.
Right. Yep. That was the very first USWF that we Steve Nelson put on, and talk about a show. It was amazing. But yeah, there no weight divisions, just you had a bunch of guys and signed up, and some were local, some he really almost wrangled off the streets just to make the tournament. And so but yeah, it was an 8-man bracket, so you had to win 3 times to win the belt, and I met Heath Herring there in the finals.
Okay, so did you have to pay to enter this tournament?
No, it was an amateur tournament, but yeah, we didn't have to pay for it to get in.
All right, so you just didn't get paid either. All right, an amateur tournament with Paul Jones and Heath Herring on opposite sides of the bracket. Heath, from what I understand, like the little research I've been able to get on you, it seemed as if he was just out of, like, he went from high school, played a little bit of football in college, got injured, fought this one time, and then it just caught the bug and never went back to college. Do you know the timeline of events with that?
Yeah. He was just had graduated from Amarillo High, and was a decent wrestler, but definitely big enough to play football. So I think that's what he was going to pursue, was the football career. And
wait, so was this before he went to college?
It was in '96, and so I think I think he's just 18 years old.
He was just out of high school.
Yeah, because when we fought, because we trained together all the time, and so I thought, I've got Heath in the finals and such, and I thought, wow, that's pretty cool. Got my training partner, there in the finals, and we went at it, and he caught me in a key lock on my elbow and was snapping it, and I thought, oh my goodness, he's got it tight. And what the rules were, you could have a rope grab, which Nelson kind of adapted from Shudo over in Japan, and so I just put my foot on the rope. I said, I'm getting out of this, so he had one free one, and so I put my foot on the rope, and I was able to get out of it that way. But talk about it tight. He had that sucker on, and it swelled up like crazy after the fight. But yeah, he had it tight. But I mean, and that was something I wasn't used to him doing. I mean, I was used to dominating him, because I a little bit, quite a bit older actually. But yeah, he caught me, and he had it tight.
That's wild. Yeah, he okay. So let me kind of recorrect the story. Heath gets in this tournament, goes away to college, gets injured playing football, and just says, you know what? I'm done. I found what I want to do, and he wants to fight. So an 18-year-old just out of high school, Heath Herring, is still just a savage beast, it sounds like.
Oh, yeah. Just so freaking strong, and just, but yeah, because when he had me locked up, but he was young, that was the deal. But, and he definitely matured after that fight. And so, but talk about a strong kid. I mean, just one of the strongest ones I'd ever fought.
Right,
and 18 years old.
All right, so let's talk about pre-fighting. So I heard a rumor. Well, I kind of watched it in your fights, picked it up from some of the commentary, that you were working at a boys' home at the time you started fighting. So why don't we talk about your foundation, like where your beginning is?
So my beginning probably starts back at Nebraska Omaha, where I wrestled there for Coach Mike Denny, who's a legend, and he's one that kind of got me into judo because he's got, I don't remember what degree, black belt in judo, and so we put on the gis all the time and would go do judo and such, and I kind of got a passion for that and did some Sambo wrestling as well. And then when I left Nebraska Omaha, I moved to Boys Ranch, Texas, and was the head wrestling coach there, and actually spent 37 years, just left there after 37 years of being the head wrestling coach amongst doing other things. But through that time, I still competed, did some Sambo tournaments and some AAU tournaments and such.
Now, were you a Division two-time runner-up?
Right. Yep. I lost to Booker Binford my junior year, who went on to place third at D1s, and I lost to Marvin Jones my senior year, who also went on to place third Division One. So, and back then, you could compete in D1s if you were in D2. So I competed both years in the Division One. Never placed there at the D1s, but was able to wrestle there to D1s.
Okay. All right, so let's talk about the Boys Ranch. Is this like a place for wayward boys?
Yeah, I mean it's kids that need a second chance, really. And now it's Boys Ranch, but it's also home to girls as well. And so it's they go through an intake process where whoever has custody of them, whether it's their parents or grandparents, may need just some extra help and say, I can't raise these kids by myself. And so they go through that intake process, and then we screen them. And then if they get placed out of Boys Ranch, then they go into the program out there. And Boys Ranch is Boys Ranch school was created to serve the kids of Boys Ranch. And so I actually worked for the school district there, and all my girls, I had 3 girls, they graduated from Boys Ranch High School as well. They grew up right alongside those kids, and
Well, so are these problematic kids for the most part?
sometimes they are, but sometimes it's not the kid, it's the parent. And so
that's a fact.
And
That's
so
a
I
fact.
mean, and I, through most of my time there, I hardly ever read anything about a kid's background, because when they came to me, it was a clean slate, and I was going to take them for whatever they're worth. And a lot of them didn't have any wrestling experience when they came in, so I mean, I knew where I was starting, and I loved that challenge. I really did, just taking those kids and molding them, making them, and I keep in touch with numerous amounts of those kids still today.
Okay, so this is this like a Bob Shamrock type situation, or is it different?
A little different, but some of the same. Yeah, some of these kids, are just on the streets and such. And one of the guys that is one of the best spokesman for Boys Ranch is the news anchor for KMR in Amarillo, and he said he'd be in prison or dead if it hadn't been for Boys Ranch. And he was a freshman in my first year there, wrestled 98 pounds for me, and we stay in contact. We talk to him probably at least once a month, and so, but just a great kid, but just attributes all his success that he's had throughout the years to Boys Ranch. And so, some of these kids have some hard stories, and others just need a second chance.
Okay. Is this one of those live-in facilities?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. You're there. Yeah. It's not a boarding home or anything, but yeah, they live in the home. Back in the day when it started with just a handful of kids. Then they started building these dorms, and there were 6 rooms, and they put 6 boys to a room. So you'd have 36 of these boys in one home. So,
okay.
Yeah.
What about for you? Did you just live close to the facility, or were there on-site facility for yourself as well?
So when I first moved there, part of the requirement was the coaches had to live in the dorm and serve 2 days on, and you get them up, taking them breakfast, then you go teach school, then you'd go coach, and then you'd meet them up at supper and put them to bed, give them their meds and such. And so, yeah, it was tough, but I mean, I didn't know any better. And I thought, well, this is what you're supposed to do. And I wanted a job and loved my head wrestling gig. And so we did it. But yeah, when I moved there, they'd actually moved down to 24 per home, 6 rooms, 4 kids per home. Then they moved to 3, and right now they're at about 9 kids per home. They've kind of dwindled down to that just because of state regulations more so.
Okay. Yeah, that's there's giving back to the community through coaching, and then there's giving back to the community with stuff like that. It's not a lot of pay, and if you want to do like an hourly wages for what you put in, it's less than minimum wage.
Yeah, I mean, I signed my first contract for $17,900, and that included all my teaching, coaching, and covering the home 2 days a week for 50 weeks out of the year. And so, but I lived there for 2 years, and then moved into staff housing. They have staff housing, and all the coaches live on facility there. They have what they call staff housing because they're expected to work some after hours and such. And so there's housing there for the coaches and other essential staff.
All right, let's talk about a fight that did not happen. April 26, 1996, you were in Canada for the Extreme Battlecade 2. You were supposed to fight Steve Faulkner.
Right.
All right. So that's the event where everybody got arrested at, correct?
Correct.
All right. Well,
Not me.
No, he didn't fight.
Yeah. I was scared I was going to get arrested. So when Phyllis Lee came and said, hey, they're arresting fighters, I was down. The wrestling was the level below. And she said, they're getting arrested. And so in Montreal, I don't know if you're familiar with, there's tunnels underneath there. And so I just took off in the tunnel and stayed down there till well after 2 o'clock. I just sat amongst some old guys playing chess down there. And then I made my way back to the hotel, and they said, yeah, they're gone. And your name's being cleared anyway, because they found out you actually didn't fight. So.
Okay, so why did your fight not take place?
So my fight didn't take place because Orlando Wheat was supposed to fight Igor Zinoviev. Well, rumor got back to Orlando Wheat that if you fight there, you're not welcome back in France because, Montreal, Quebec's a French province. And so they told him, we'll tell the government there that not to let you back. And so last minute, they asked Igor, do you want to fight Jones or Faulkner? And Igor said, well, I'll fight Faulkner. And so that left me without anyone to fight. So I walked in there, got my hand raised, and they paid me $5,000 though, just to go. Easiest $5,000 I ever made.
Yeah, how about it? Probably it's a 30-year salary, really. Yeah, at the time we're rich.
Yeah. So, but that was pretty amazing that happened. And so, but yeah, I mean, there was a lot of events that led up to that were just crazy, because they had us in Montreal, and then they busted us over to Ottawa because there was rumors that something may go down, and then the night of the fight they bust us back from Ottawa to Montreal and to do the fight, and then once all the fights were over, that's when the arresting began.
All right. So, how did you was Phyllis Lee your manager?
No, Phyllis Lee wasn't my manager, but she was around and everybody knew her and such. And so I was actually, Steve Nelson was kind of my corner man there. And I'd been training with some other people, Craig Kimberland as well. Yeah, that's so Steve Nelson kind of took care of hooking me up there. And,
so Steve was your manager, I'm assuming.
Yeah. He's the one that ran the USWF, and he's the one that got me really hooked up with Perretti there. And so that's kind of how that came about.
Okay. So you dealt with Perretti through Nelson. Did you ever deal with him direct?
Oh, yeah. and so yeah, I dealt with him when he went over to UFC. He's the one that got me in.
Yeah, I brought you over. Yeah.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
What was your dealings like with him at the Battlecade Extreme Fighting?
It was fine, he was good to me, and he said, he's the one, hey, we're still gonna take care of you, even though you didn't get to fight and such. And he said, we'll bring you back.
That's cool. Yeah, a lot of organizations, especially at that time, wouldn't have done it.
Yeah.
They just wouldn't have paid you.
Yeah. And so then he brought me into UFC 21.
Yeah.
And then
yeah, obviously fought Lidell right after that as well.
Yeah, and he told me he was one that said, "Hey, yeah, that's because that was my only loss was to Lidell." And he said, that's not going to hurt you. We'll bring you back. Well, then a lot of things started changing, of course, with UFC changing hands and different things, and so that was it. One loss, and I was written off.
How old were you when you started fighting?
In '96, I was 33. That was my first fight, actually, in the USWF.
Yeah, that's kind of somebody that's 33 is generally kind of well into their career. So
Right.
You're at the boys ranch wrestling, kind of toying around with other events. In '96, you also won the Sambo World Championship.
Yep.
So what makes the transition from, doing what it is you're supposed to do in a career to all of a sudden decide to pick up fighting?
Steve Nelson just said, "Hey, I need you to do this for me." I'm starting the USWF, and the thing is, I'm the head football coach as well at the time. So I'm doing head football, head wrestling, and trying to train for fighting. That wouldn't be heard of today, because it's a full-time gig. But I'd go in after football practice or whenever and train at night, or get up early in the morning. It was.
So Steve Nelson starts a promotion and says, "I need ticket sellers."
Yeah.
Oh, I got you a fight.
That's it. Yeah. And so, and he actually did pay me $400 to win that tournament, and so, it was supposed to be amateur, but he took care of me. So
that's really good. That's really good. Let's talk about Sambo. 1996, the Sambo World Champion. Were you there when Hickson was competing? Hickson Gracie?
No, because I did the AAU one. I don't think he did that one.
Okay.
I did AAU, and then trying to think what year I went out and did the one, in Vegas. I was, and I beat what's his name? Jeff Zastro is who I fought or there for third and fourth, and and he just came off world championship. He got beat early, and I got beat early, and we met then for third and fourth, and I was able to catch him on actually one of my old wrestling moves that Roy Oliver taught me, and so it was kind of cool. But yeah, Nelson's the one that talked me into that too, because he was getting inducted in the Hall of Fame, the Sambo Hall of Fame, I guess then, and so he said, "Hey, it'd be cool if you went out and competed the Sambo tournament at the same time." So I said, "Okay, let's do this too." So yeah, Nelson's talked me into a lot of things. So
yeah, it sounds like he's a good influence, but like kind of questionable because he's making you do crazy stuff, right?
Yeah, but he came into high school coaching in Amarillo at Paladura the same time I went to boys ranch. So we competed against each other for 25 years, head to head, coaching, and so we're great friends, and everything. So it was good. My wife was the one that was always telling Nelson, you need to pay him more money. You need to pay him more money. And so, but he was always good to me. He's the one that hooked me up with Perretti, and he's the one that got me over to over in Shudo twice over there. And so
Peretti's one of our favorite guests here. Like he's so brilliant in certain aspects to where like it takes you a while to kind of catch up to him. Yeah. And then when you finally do, he calls you a dummy. You know what I mean? It's like he's one of our favorite people to have on the show, man.
Oh yeah, he's hilarious. He's and that's Yeah, and I'll tell you who else is hilarious and just you had trouble. Erik Paulson's hilarious, just one of the funniest guys, and just it's hard to take him serious, but he and Perretti are a lot alike, and so
Yeah, Paulson's a brilliant mind as well. So May 28th, 1997, Extreme Fighting 4. Erik Paulson's 8-1 and the current shoot wrestling world champion. So how many fights is this for you at this time?
that's really my first one in the cage.
Okay.
All the rest were
Wrestling
USWF.
man fights. Yeah.
Yeah, shudo and shoot fighting and all that stuff. And so this was the first one where they actually locked the door and said, "Hey, you can't get out until we have a winner."
How many times had you been punched in the face prior to this fight? In fighting.
Hardly ever, because and I said that in one of my interviews. I was only in one fight in 8th grade, and I took the kid down, punched him in the mouth while he was on the ground. That was it. And that's the thing. I wasn't really a fighter at all. Went all through college, never got in a fight, and all my buddies got in all these fights, but never me. And so,
okay, so I do like psychotic research on guests. There's such little about you out there, and it's just because you show up, you do your thing, you're professional, shake hands, and then you go home. Like there's no, hey, Paul Jones got into a bar fight. Paul Jones, high speed chase with the police. Guess who was in the back of that car with him? None of that exists with you.
not gonna find that. Yeah. So that was now one time a guy threw beer in our car, or hit my car at Taco Bell in Omaha, and I walked around and said, what's going on? And that ended with me reaching the window and popping him right in the jaw. That was it.
Yeah, that's not much. That's what you're supposed to do. That doesn't count.
So you're not going to find much. And so and I mean that's kind of what the card I played, because they invited me out for the Ultimate Fighter 4, and I thought, so when I went out there, I knew I'd watched the show, and I know.
Are you talking about the comeback?
Yeah, the comeback. Yeah.
Really? This is years later.
Yeah, I was 44.
Okay. All right.
And so they'd asked me to come out and said, "Hey, yeah, we want you." And I thought, man, it's been a while, but yeah, I'll get ready. I'll do it, And I try and stay in pretty good shape anyway. But and so when I went through the interview and talked about everything, and I was supposed to fight Rich Franklin, is who the champion was at the time, and I said, yeah, he's an educator teacher, but I'm telling you, I'm the biggest thing I said, well, I'm an educational administrator, so I probably do some administrating on Rich Franklin. That was the biggest thing I said. But so I sold myself as, I'll go in the house and I'll be the white hat guy, because everybody was tearing up the places and all this stuff. Well, that didn't fit who I was. I mean, I don't use foul language. I don't have any tats on me. So yeah. I thought, okay, I'm gonna have to try and sell them that I'm squeaky clean, and that'll kind of create some controversy. Well, it didn't, so they didn't invite me. So
yeah, Mikey Burnett was on that one.
Yeah, and so, but they had some characters on there for sure, and so, but my character just didn't fit what they were looking for, and so
okay.
And I had a good talk with Dana about it, and everything, and he was fine. So,
it is what it is. So March 28th, 1997, Extreme Fighting 4, Erik Paulson's your first real fight, and he's 8-1, current shoot wrestling world champion. Dude, Erik Paulson had Danny Inosanto in his corner. You got Steve Nelson.
Yeah.
And it's essentially you got two shoot fighting coaches. Well, not Inosanto, obviously, but Paulson's a shoot fighter. But it's like a chess match between two high-end instructors with their students. What was your expectations going into that fight?
Well, I was definitely confident, and I thought, okay, yeah, I mean, I can take this, and I mean, because I'd watched some video, and I thought, I mean, I can handle him, and I was undefeated, in the USWF, and I'd fought some people like Larry Parker and different people, and so I thought, I mean, I'll be able to handle Paulson, and the only I thought I did all right. I mean, it wasn't my best fight, but there was no judges, so we don't know who won.
I mean, you hit him with 2 throws.
Yeah,
including like one like almost like somersault with like a fireman's carry where you're dumping.
Yeah, that was just something crazy at the end, because I ended up kind of in the crucifix, there because I had him lifted up, and they said you can't throw him over, so I thought, okay, I'm gonna just do this flip and dump him right down. It'll look cool, and so because I knew time was we're running out, so.
When you look at Erik Paulson in terms of like the tools that he has as a fighter, he was way ahead of his time.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And he made short work of him. Like that, it's a draw. It's a draw because there was no judges, but it's plain as day who won that fight.
Yeah. He reminds me. I knew he was ahead of his time. Evan Tanner was ahead of his time as well.
Matt Sarah,
and I trained with him, quite a bit because he'd been from Amarillo, and so he and Paulson are both alike, very very knowledgeable on what's effective, what works, and so they both have that brilliant mindset.
Yeah, Paulson is somebody I admire. Him, Matt Hume. I admire those guys and their knowledge.
Yeah, yeah, all those guys were back there, in the extreme, back in the day.
So you mentioned Evan Tanner, young Evan Tanner. Did he have demons at a young age? Did you get him from the boys' ranch?
No. He was actually, he was at Cap Rock. He went to a school in town and was a 2-time state champ there at Cap Rock, and phenomenal athlete. I mean, he could do anything he wanted. He was a state placer in pole vault, played football, mean as snot there, and so and very smart. He passed it. What is that? Smart test, the Mensa test,
Oh, he passed that?
Oh yeah. I mean, I'm telling you, the guy was brilliant. Brilliant. And so, but yeah, he had some issues. So
Well, I mean, you kind of trained to spot that, being at the boys' ranch and just kind of being around it.
Sure.
Was it pretty evident to you that he was kind of haunted?
Not normally, but I mean, if you consume an alcohol, it would make it more evident, I think. And so, but otherwise he was just real. Otherwise he was real soft spoken.
Did you ever try to talk to him in regards to addiction?
A little bit, and he didn't want to talk about it. He had a good coach. Jerome Stewart was his wrestling coach there, and he tried to talk to him and kind of would always blow him off. And when I talked to Jerome, he said, "Oh yeah, that's what you get," So
you're obviously a Sambo guy through Steve Nelson, shoot wrestling. That entire third round, you were fighting off ankle and knee locks from Paulson. Were any of them close?
I could feel it, but I don't think I ever panicked on him, and so it was one of those deals where I thought, oh, okay, I'm here, but I wasn't super worried. I mean, it was, been there, done that. So, I mean, it's like what you said, yeah, it was my first fight per se, in the octagon, but I had been in many situations like that previously. So it was, I guess I was overly confident I could get out.
Yeah, that's wild because around that time it was kind of like the jujitsu. They used to refer to it as garbage jujitsu, and guys like you and Paulson training leg locks. Does that come from your Sambo background?
Yeah, probably. Training with Nelson and different things there, and so even training, with some of my wrestling buddies because we did a little bit, in college, and so it was.
Did you ever roll with like Mark Schultz or anybody like that?
No. I mean, I knew Mark, but yeah, never really crossed paths with him.
Wade Rome?
No.
Okay. What about Ali Elias?
Yeah. Yeah. He was coaching at River Road same time that I was there. So yeah, we rolled quite a bit together, trained quite a bit together, went to Japan together. Fought over there.
Yeah, Ali Elias was a Iranian high school world champion.
All right.
And like he was one of those guys that everyone believed was going to be on the Olympic team.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you went to Japan with him for
sure. No, we both fought over there.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, Ali. What about Ron Tripp? Did Ron Tripp ever come down with Steve?
Oh yeah. He was always over there. He fought a couple times in USWF, and so, but he never came to train much over there. But he'd show up and do some of the USWFs for Nelson.
Yeah, just a master judo practitioner, man.
So, I mean, lots of people are training with. I mean, Paul Bunduela training with him. You know,
the headhunter. Yeah,
headhunter. You know, like I said, Evan Tanner, Brent Medley, who's was a couple times. Just different. We had quite a few there that used to bang around. We'd move location. We'd train here for a while and then there for a while. And so
yeah, I mean, not Evan Tanner, but Heath Herring, as we had mentioned earlier. So you guys had a pretty good room then.
Oh, a phenomenal room, And so so a lot of them, went on to fight in the UFC, and they've still got some that go through there. Cody Pfister, which is a little younger than us, but I mean, so Amarillo area has produced a good number of fighters there.
Yeah, for sure. Your career is kind of like one of those one after another, after another, after another, and it's a 2-year span. At the end of the 2 years, it's over. You didn't get. I don't think you got injured much.
No, and I didn't. It didn't even get hit too much. Probably the hardest I got hit was, well, besides Lidell's elbow, was Paulson caught me with an uppercut one time over there in Japan, and oh my goodness, brought water to my eyes, and so, but it was, I didn't get hit too much. Even Lidell didn't hit me too much, like I said, except for that nasty elbow. Oh.
So here you go. You go Erik Paulson, Tony Castillo, and Erik Paulson is one of those guys that he doesn't forget. Like he's a brilliant mind, and if something bothers him, he's going to try to figure out a way to kind of correct that issue. And you guys meet in Japan on your third real fight, August 27th. So it's like 3 months. Here you go, May 28th. Erik Paulson, August 16th, and then it's August 27th. So it's like 11 days later after your other fight.
Yeah.
Now you're in Japan dealing with Paulson again. Did you miss weight for that?
No, so the thing was, I thought we were going to. I didn't know it was going to be a catch weight. So it was they said, oh yeah, you make this weight. Well, I thought that was a weight, and that I was fighting for the championship, but it was they just did a catch weight, which I guess I didn't understand. It was going to be that. So that's why I won the fight, but didn't get the title because I would have had to drop just a couple more pounds. So they did a catch weight on it.
So they never talked to you about cutting weight?
Well, they said you had to get down to. I got down to 184, whatever that was, and then which was a lot lighter than 199, which is what I was used to, for the fights, and so they just said this is the way you make, and I made it. So,
wow. Huh. Yeah, it's weird. You go Paulson, Tony Castillo, Paulson, Tony Castillo, and then you got like one of these like interesting MMA characters named Juan Mott, and Juan Mott is kind of from a mysterious background with lots of question marks behind it, but gets high-end fights, like high-line fights like this one.
Right. And he gets DQ'd.
Yeah. And it's not the only strange ending on his record. Like the guy's like 2-4 with, more than one strange ending. Yeah, was it rope grabbing?
No, he did. I was in a side mount, and he kneed me in the head, and they said you can't knee down a person, so which was strange. And so, and he did it twice. Knee me while I was down, and so they said you can't do that. And they disqualified me, which he was complaining I was going to win, and I felt like I was dominating, the fight, but and so it was.
He's like a TMA guy with like a manufactured background to get the fights, and then he gets the fights, and it's like, yeah, it's you shouldn't lie to get the fight that you want. You should probably tell the truth and get the fight that you need. You know what I mean? He was kind of one of those guys.
Mm-hmm.
He's got a school in Florida now. And then David Davis with the USWF. That's obviously your buddy Steve Nelson's organization. At this time, USWF was outdrawing the UFC.
Oh, it was huge. It was crazy. It was that we would pack the fairground arenas, and I love fighting there. I'd be walking out, and they say, "You're going down tonight, Jones. You're going down tonight." A lot of them were Hispanic, because it was like when I'd fight Castillo, and then he had a big following, and you're going down. And I'd win, and I'd walk back by those people, and then, "Way to go, Jones," and pat me on the back like, "What?" Yeah, boy, yeah, they were, but yeah, it was. So it was up close and personal, and just afterward you'd sign autographs, and it was cool, good organization.
Yeah, in terms of live gate, you guys were outdrawing everybody in the late '90s. Not even close.
Yeah, Nelson knew how to bring him in.
I know this. In like 2003, 2004, I'd be at a regional MMA event while there was a UFC title fight on, and there'd be 2,500, 3,000 people there. None of them would have an idea that the UFC pay-per-view was happening at that same time.
Yeah.
It's just the UFC just didn't do a really good job marketing themselves until they didn't have to. Where Nelson took the opposite approach, put money into his fighters, put his fighters on posters, brought them in, put posters up, everything.
Well, yeah, he was a promoter, because his parents were, WWF, stars, they did all that. And so he grew up with that marketing, knew how to, get people interested and the hype that went with it. And so, so when we went on the Springer, he was right in stride there. He loved that. And so,
so you guys went on Jerry Springer. It was yourself, Steve Nelson, John Perretti. Who else was there?
Half Gracie was there.
Half Gracie.
John Lewis was there.
John Lewis, yeah, I think Zinoviev made a couple of those appearances. You guys were doing a talk show circuit.
Yeah, and so, but yeah, that was a crazy deal, and so, yeah, we did the show on a Monday, and they wouldn't air it until the following Wednesday, but they made it sound like, hey, in a couple of days they're going to be fighting, so they knew when they were going to air it, and of course, Springer just bashes it, saying this is human cockfighting and all this stuff, but a lot of it was done so people say, oh wow, this is something really, and so when it showed there, and on Wednesday, we were actually over in Ottawa, because they'd moved the fighters, and we had people come up to the mall and say, hey, you guys were the dudes on the Springer show yesterday, which was pretty cool, but yeah, we were supposed to be incognito up there, but with the Springer show, people recognized us.
Yeah, that's wild. So here you go. September 1st, 1998, Wayne Admire. October 21st, Bill Scott. Like, you're cracking them out one after another, and then you go back to Japan. You go back to Japan and shoot on November 27th, 1998, Sanae Kikuta. So just so everybody at home kind of understands who Sanae is, he's 9-2-1. He's one of the all-stars out of the Grabaka gym, world famous gym. Finishes his career at 31-9-3-1. Those are savage. Any concerns going into that fight?
No.
You didn't even care, did you? You just showed up. Did you even look at tape or anything?
I got a little bit of tape on him, and so I mean, I knew, okay, this, I mean, and so, I mean, I wasn't overly concerned. I mean, and that's going to be to my demise here, coming up later.
Well, here you got to look at it this way. The guy finishes his career obviously 31-9, 3-1, and it's like it's a Japan 31-9, 3-1, where they try to get you beat. Like if you've got an above 500 record in Japan, you're a tough SOB. Beat Keith Roquel, Elvis Sinisek, split draw against Yuki Kondo, Minowa, Eugene Jackson, Minoru Suzuki, Masanari Suda, and Egan Inoue. All of those guys are on his list of guys he beat. That's nuts.
Yeah.
Like at this time, this guy's probably top 5 in the world. Like Erik Paulson for sure is in there. This guy is as well. So you got 2 guys in the top 5, in my opinion. Does that even dawn on you, or?
No, I didn't know him that well.
Didn't care.
Yeah, I mean, that's just you just have to show up, and that's what
you're not even a street fighter though.
Mm-hmm.
So you're watching this tape going, oh yeah, I got this one.
Well, Nelson told me I did, so all right, Nelson.
He's a liar, right?
Yeah. So, yeah, he said, yeah, we can win this. I wrote over there was Mark Coleman. Coleman said, the Hammer said, oh, you'll get this guy. You'll get him. So he was on that. He didn't fight. He was trying to think, who did he corner there?
Either Kevin Randleman or Brandon Lee Hinkle.
No.
Bobish, Gary Myers.
No. I'll think of it in a minute. But yeah, he was over there, and yeah, I talked to him, and he said, "Oh yeah, you'll get it." So all right. So
yeah, Kikuta was a tough dude. Lots of politics for Shudo as well. Did Phyllis Lee ever try to corner you to manage you?
No, never really came and approached me about it at all. And so, I think she just let Nelson do his thing, and so it was, and maybe I should have, she may have got me some more UFC fights.
Yeah. Larry Parker, the Violator, he's 8-2-1. That's another real tough guy. Kind of flies under people's radars as well, underappreciated.
Yeah, that's the first one I actually won by open hand strikes. He tapped because I was open hand striking him, and so that doesn't happen very often.
Now, man, I'm in driving distances. So I'm ashamed to admit I didn't go. UFC 21's in Cedar Rapids, July 16th, 1999. Flavio, Luiz, Moura. Dude, you got one of the high-end luta livre guys now. So you've had Japanese, catch wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
You've had, obviously other Americans. Erik Paulson. I mean, he's a pretty dynamic fighter. And now you got the luta livre guys. So like you're seeing a lot of different looks. Is no concerns heading into this one either.
I actually trained a lot harder for 21. I actually got a boxing coach. Got Rupert Brashears to kind of help me out, and I thought, I mean, I really need to work on my stand-up game a little bit. And of course, he just knew boxing. He didn't know MMA, and he said, "Here's what you need to do: run in there real quick, and then act like you throw a jab, and then back out." Well, I don't know if you saw the thing. I get popped just as soon as I run in there, and kind of. It's like a flash, knockdown, and I dropped immediately down into the single leg where it had that that second instinct to do that, and so, but he really did help me with my throwing hands and such, and so, and
you look complete. Yeah, you look complete, dude.
And then he wasn't available as much before my Lidell fight, and I wish he would have been for sure. The problem is, it's that fight. Flavio's in the summertime, so I mean I've got plenty of time to train. When I'm fighting Lidell, it's in the middle of football season, and it was hard to get a lot of training in, and I had the problem that I had that attitude. Oh, it's just Lidell. I mean, I'll get him, and so
yeah.
and I was undefeated, and so I just thought, okay. I mean, and I should have trained harder. Yeah, probably. I don't know when.
Yeah, but you're kind of known for your work ethic at this point. That's what
Yeah,
everybody says. Like you can hear it, like in some of the commentary. They talk about your work ethic.
yeah. I definitely worked hard. I just think I should have prepared a little bit. And it was weird though too. All my warm ups felt good. Before I fought Lidell down there, I thought I just felt like I'm not getting a good sweat, and when I was hitting the mitts, I felt like I have no strength. There was just a weird feelings, like I didn't have any power. And I knew in the first round there, I thought, man, I'm not feeling. And I thought, I as soon as I get this first round in, hopefully I'll feel better. Well, of course, he catches me, in about the fourth minute there with that elbow. So
September 24th, 1999, you're talking about UFC 22. So they're using you two in a row. And you get cut and they stop it on a cut. It seemed a little premature. Was the cut that nasty?
when I walked over to the fence and Nelson looked at me, he went, "Oh." Just
Oh,
so I
okay.
had to have stitches on the inside and the outside. So Big John, he saw it. Because when I get hit, a lot of people say, "Well, when did you get hit?" Well, I was on the fence trying to get pummel underneath and get double unders on Lidell. Well, that wasn't very smart because he just brought that elbow over the top and cut me there, and I've immediately felt that warm feeling because I've been cut before. That warm feeling like, oh shoot, I'm cut. And so I think I got to get this down to the ground and hopefully get a submission and finish this because I can't. And when I shot in, he stopped me, and that's when Big John kind of saw the cut, and and Lidell's standing over the top of me, so it makes it look. If you look at it, you think, oh, he knocked him down. I wasn't knocked down. I was trying to get him down to the ground, but it was a bad cut. He laid it open pretty good, but I don't know. Back then we didn't have fight doctors either, and so maybe they could put a little Vaseline in there, and I kept going. I don't know. So, but it was.
Yeah. Yeah, it didn't look like you were knocked down, but it also looked like you were having some cardio issues.
That's what I'm saying. I just didn't feel like I had. The tank was empty or something. Just completely didn't have a great warm up or something. I don't know what it was.
Would you maybe an adrenaline dump?
Maybe could have. Could have. Yeah, just maybe I got riled up seeing Tank Abbott drive that forklift around the arena. He's driving that forklift around, wrecking things just prior to my fight. Even he just, it was crazy. But anyway, yeah, it could have been just one of those deals where I picked the wrong time to have that off night for sure. And I'll tell you, I've watched it maybe 2-3 times at the most. Don't even want to go back and look at it.
Really?
Yeah. People say, I saw you fight with Lidell. I said, okay. It was not I knew it wasn't a good showing. One, I shouldn't have wore white shorts. That was, my wife said, it wasn't summertime and you weren't very tan. White shorts on your white body didn't look very good. So it was all funky there. I don't know.
You were kind of starting to get some notoriety though. So the fight prior to this, Sergio Moura, Flavio Luiz Moura. It's Sergio Moura is what he went by. You were on the cover of Full Contact Fighter magazine, holding that rear naked choke.
Yeah.
Yeah, you were like people knew who you were just based on Kikuta, future world champion, Erik Paulson, future world champion. Well, I think current at the time you fought him.
Yeah.
So it's like you're kind of one of these guys. You're not cutting crazy promos, not doing nutty things, but you look at your body count and it's holy cow, what do we got here?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know?
Then one loss, and that's really, I mean,
yeah, there just wasn't a lot of UFCs. That's the issue.
yeah. And went back and fought another one in the USWF when Tanner was actually running it. And then it kind of got sideways. And so, yeah, I just never went back to it. So,
yeah, I think, did you end your career with 36, 37? How old were you when you finally ended your career?
yeah, I think 36. I think it was, or no, I fought in 2000. So I would have been 37. Yeah, 37.
So, I mean, you're a pretty religious guy. You go to church groups, stuff like that. Like you're wearing T-shirts, Christians aren't wimps. Stuff like that. And was it uncomfortable going to some of your social circles, being, telling everybody that you're a cage fighter?
No, they liked it. Now, Boys Ranch for a while they really struggled with me being a fighter, and what kind of example are you going to be to these boys, and because they didn't understand it. It's kind of like the state of New York took them forever to understand it. I went there with Perretti, and we talked to Senator Goodman up there about trying to get it legalized in New York. I did that right after the Springer show. When we went and talked to him and tried to get it. And so, it took them a while for them to accept that I was a fighter, and so I kind of, I tell them, like on the one, I told them I was from Des Moines, Iowa, or, Waukee, Iowa for the one, so it wouldn't look bad. So that's, plus they, UFC 21, they were trying to highlight all the Iowa boys against the world, really. And so growing up in Iowa, that's kind of the way they spun that one. So
yeah. Did you ever train with Pat Miletich?
never trained with him, but I ran around with him there. Same circles, same fights, hook and shoot. Some of that stuff up there, and saw him different places.
Yeah, it's your careers are interesting. It's when someone's kind of like a hardcore MMA fan when they bring your name up, like in today's day and age, and there's like an automatic bond where you're like, oh yes, like I get it, and your name is kind of synonymous with that, based on your body of work.
Yeah.
Real common name too, so it's like impossible to search stuff. Not a lot of stuff on YouTube. Like Paul Jones, I'm looking. Hey, Ken Shamrock during the independent grind, he went by Wayne Shamrock. I call up Steve Nelson, was calling around people trying to get information on you, for good questions. And I'm like, man, his manager was Paul Jones. And Nelson's like, yeah, you probably want to look up pro wrestling, Paul Jones. I'm like, oh,
yeah,
not him. Yeah, not him.
Yeah, there was one. Yeah, and I never had a nickname. I mean,
yeah, no nickname.
I wanted to be Paul the Baptist, because there was John the Baptist in the Bible, because I went to a Baptist church, so I said I could be Paul the Baptist, and I'm going to either what was my thing? I'm not going to submerge you. I'm going to submit you or something, like that.
Yeah. Baptize you by fire, something.
Yeah. So, but yeah. So
looking back on your fight career, what's your favorite moment?
Boy, there's so many. I mean, it's just being able to say, oh yeah. I mean, one was looking back, fighting the Iceman. Now I didn't know he was that good. But that was cool. And fighting in Amarillo, there's just that atmosphere. They had the Hooter girls be the ring girls, and one time I talked Nelson, I said, let my daughter do that. And so she put on the orange little shirt, and I don't remember how old she was, maybe she was in elementary school.
Oh my God.
She walked around with a ring card, for her daddy, and so it was things like that. That was fun, and just some of the people we hung out with, Maurice Smith is just a character. I loved, you know, just hanging out with some of those guys and getting to know them a lot better. Canada was a lot of fun, even though I didn't fight. That was a blast up there, just then just being able to do things I probably wouldn't have done, going to Japan twice and just the whole experience. It was one of those deals where, hey, and it was just a chapter in my life, and then when that chapter was over, I had to go do something else, and so.
You closed it though. You didn't have an issue closing that chapter. Some guys do; they hang on to it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Well, I hated it. I really ended there with Lidell. I would have liked to maybe, but we did it back when we weren't doing it for the money or anything. We weren't doing it for the fanfare because when Lidell and I weighed in, we weighed in a back hotel room, a little bitty room, and there was that wasn't a big deal. In fact, Lidell was overweight. Hey, Lidell, you're a little bit over. Go cut some more weight, and he did. And I guess he made it, came back in, weighed in, it's just so different now.
At that time, Dana White was managing Lidell. So you would have interacted with Dana White, which is probably why he invited you to the comeback.
Yeah, it could be, and so, what is it? The matchmaker was Silva.
Well, Joe Silva was after. This was John Perretti.
Right, but
Silva was there. Yeah,
Silva's the one that invited me to the comeback.
Okay.
He's the one, and when the hell was it? What year was that? Well, that was 2007 when that happened because my oldest daughter was a senior, and I would have missed her graduation and her running at the state track meet. So God had a way of working it out that I didn't need to be on the show, and so I would have missed all that. And so.
But Joe was also hanging out at the hook and shoots quite a bit as well.
Yeah.
So you ran into him there. Like Joe was, there are certain people in a mixed martial arts space, or even any combat sports space, where all of a sudden they just kind of appear, and you're like, "Well, where'd you come from? Where's your body work from? Like you're polished, you got this character, you're on TV right in front of me, but where's your roots?" And they don't have it, you know. And Joe Silva does. Whether take the good, take the bad, you can say whatever it is you want about the guy. He put the work in and started at the independent grind at the very bottom. So I respect Joe Silva.
Yeah, oh yeah. Yeah. He knew how to put them together for sure.
Yeah. No, for sure. Any regrets?
No regrets, just like I said, I maybe could have marketed myself better if I wanted to keep pursuing it. Maybe I could have done that. Should have taken Lidell more serious,
Could you made 185?
Oh yeah.
But you didn't like cutting weight either.
I did for bodybuilding. I competed in bodybuilding, a couple of times even after UFC and got down to about 182. So it wasn't that hard. So, but I enjoyed it. It was definitely a great chapter in my life, and one everybody wants to talk about.
Does it get brought up often in your life?
Oh yeah. Yeah, a lot of times, he gets passed on. The wrestlers, the boys, that Coach Jones used to fight. And they'll look it up and everything. And I don't talk about it much, but they find out and they want to talk about it then. And so it's just kind of cool.
You fought one of the greatest fighters in the world, with Chuck Liddell. That alone it's pretty wild.
Yeah, it really is. For somebody who just kind of started it, because as a favor for Steve Nelson. So
yeah, and now there's a favor. You're in Japan twice in the UFC, fighting a former world champion. John Perretti. I ran into Chuck Liddell a couple of weeks ago, and he's like, that John Perretti tried to tell me that I needed to shave my mohawk and it wasn't marketable. And we asked John in his last interview, he's like, "It's true. I said it. I don't know. What do you want from me?" Yeah.
So, just I've been a competitor all my life. I mean, after that, I went and wrestled in 2 Veterans Nationals out there in Vegas, in my 50s. And so, I've just enjoyed, staying competitive. And that was just something to do, I guess, in my mid-30s to be competitive. So,
Yeah, that's really cool. That's really cool. That's really cool. Yeah. So you worked at the Boys Ranch for 37 years. You retired. What are we doing now?
yeah, believe it or not, I'm a manager at a retail store, and it's a bin store where, we get Amazon liquidation merchandise and all this. And I would say I'm letting my body heal, but I actually tore a bicep picking up some auto parts there. I had my bicep and shoulder operated on, it's just been 3 months ago. And so healing up from that, had several people down here in the Dallas area that I coached. If it's tried to get me to come help at some Christian schools, help with some youth wrestling programs. And I may do that, get back into that. I do miss coaching and that part of it, but just kind of enjoy the moment right now. And so, but
That's good.
we'll see what happens.
So you never wanted to open up a school. You never wanted to teach.
People always ask me, why aren't you, because coming from Amarillo, you could open up a school and do all this and that, and why don't you do that? And I don't know. For one, when I was at Boys Ranch, I was really focused on making sure I helped those kids there. And then this opportunity came along, and I said, oh, I'm ready for something different. Jumped on it, and I'll do it a while, and then we'll move on to something else.
So we don't. Yeah, until we don't. Right.
So, I don't have any regrets about what, I left Nebraska Omaha back in '87, and I was going to try out for the Olympic team in '88. John Morgan is. I went against him 3 times in college, beat him all 3 times, and he makes the Olympic team then in '88 in Greco, But I said no, I'm done with wrestling for a while. I'm gonna go coach it. So I watched from Boys Ranch. I watched John Morgan wrestle in the Olympics, and I thought could have been me, but made a decision, and I don't regret the decision at all.
You stand by it. Like yeah. Have you ever had a sip of alcohol?
Yeah, I did. So back in as a freshman in high school, went to a kegger and they handed me some alcohol and some beer. And so I walk around with the beer and I said, well, you got to drink some of it. So I drank a little bit of it there. The very next match I wrestled a kid named John Miller. John Miller pinned me. The very next match I went. And I said, I know why I got pinned. Because I drank the alcohol. I was never pinned again.
You've never had a sip of alcohol since that time?
Well, my mom and dad made me drink brandy. If I had a cold, they gave me honey, brandy.
It don't count. Okay.
So yeah, really, and my classmates say, oh, come on, you can have a drink. And even in my reunion, they early on, they said, oh, take a drink. And then pretty soon they said, he's never going to break, and so it was one of those deals and that was fine. That's kind of what I was known as, not jumping on the bandwagon, doing that. And so, and it's,
Your kids the same way?
Is what?
Your daughters, are they the same way?
They're not as strict as I am. I think they've done some social drinking maybe, but not anything
out of control. Yeah.
No.
Yeah. It's wild. Like my house was much different than like growing up is much different than, how it is for my daughter. And I haven't had a sip of alcohol since I was 18. And my daughter's a junior in high school. It's just not a big deal. Not something that it doesn't turn her on. You know what I mean? It's just, I think it's just a culture within the house. And that's pretty important to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And your focal point for the weekend shouldn't be how wasted you're going to get.
Yeah, and that's definitely my family just never was that way,
I was told you've never been to an after party.
I may have gone. I'm trying to think if I did or not. if it wasn't to drink, just to hang
Yeah,
out.
I mean, I was told he's never had a sip of alcohol. He's never been to an after party. Complete and total Boy Scout. It's amazing he run for political office because they'd have to make something up on him. I mean, it's literally like the 4 people I talked to about you. It's just, yeah, you ain't gonna get nothing on him, boy. You ain't gonna get nothing. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm not really looking for something. I'm looking for content. Yep, Boy Scout. That's how they refer to you as.
Yeah. So there was something going around in the coaches thing, and for a while they were trying to get people to flip off the camera, and they said, "You won't get Jones to flip you off. You won't do that." And I broke my finger there. You can see it. And they said, "Hey, somebody said you broke your finger. You can show me that." And then, so I went like this. They said, "We got him to do it. He was flipping off the camera. I was holding it upside just like that, But it was funny, and so I don't know. I'm not without sin. Don't think that.
Oh,
That's
that's all of us. That's all of us.
But God's grace has led me down a path that I certainly am very, very thankful for, and I've enjoyed just being part of other kids' journeys. And I just thought, if I'm going to lead kids on a journey, I need to be, going down the right road. So
You're leading by example. There's no doubt about that. And that's how you should always live your life. You should act as if somebody's always watching you, especially when they're not, because that's the real person.
Mm-hmm. There's somebody watching, though. I mean, we know God's watching, but there's always people watching, whether you know it or not.
Yeah. What you do when you think no one's watching you, that's who you are.
Yeah.
That's who you are. So, hey, I really appreciate this time. We've had one of our friends of the show, Joseph Galati. I know he's the one that reached out to you to connect us together. He's gotten us a couple interviews, actually. He's constantly kind of inbox me little cool messages in regards to like facts. And you've been a topic of our conversations on more than one occasion.
Oh, nice. That's good to know.
Zinoviev. All right. Did you ever share a mat with him?
No, never. I would have been happy to fight him. I would have loved to have fought him, up there in Canada. I was hoping, he would have picked me. And so, but he didn't. I still got $5,000. I said, "Oh, that's okay, Igor. Maybe another time." I wanted to fight Jeremy Horn. I thought I'd fight him eventually. Never fought him. I thought, instead of fighting Lidell, that's who I really thought I was going to fight in 22. But it ended up being, Chuck there instead. So.
Yeah, I think if you won that Chuck match, your next fight's for a world title, UFC world title.
Yeah, could have been.
Instead, they cut you.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but
it's like, there's no rhyme or reason back then. You just
there wasn't, and so that was part of it. And so I moved on to different things. Kept coaching wrestling and football and all that.
So at the Boys Ranch, did you ever kind of? I mean, you're kind of at ground zero with some kids that are, some from pretty rough backgrounds. Did you ever kind of be a feeder for any of the local gyms in regards to some of those kids?
I mean, what do you mean? Is that like a feeder?
Like a feeder, like, hey man, I got this kid. He's rough and tough. He might be cut out for MMA.
Oh yeah. I had several, and several of my kids that I coached, went on to fight for Nelson, in USWF, many of them, Vinny Nixon went and fought Evan Tanner down in Lubbock, and Vinny just passed away a year and a half ago in a tragic auto accident in Baltimore. I went back to his funeral, but I got him to fight Evan Tanner. He was one of my he was my tight end and my 189 pounder. And then Brent Manley, he wrestled for me. And then there's just a long list of others that fought, at one time or another in the USWF, whether it's Fortune or Kidwell or Lucido or Hargrove or just so many, kind of jumped in it after, and we'd roll around out there at the ranch, and such. And so the thing about Wayne, you mentioned Wayne Admire. I trained him all the time. And in no way should he have won that tournament. But I was supposed to fight the champion of the tournament. It ends up being Wayne Admire. That was probably the second easiest match besides the one in Canada that I ever had, So, but Wayne, no way was he supposed to win. He ends up winning the thing, and I trained him. And so,
yeah, you guys had a cool little scene, man. You guys really did. Lots of like interesting personalities too between yourself, which is obviously straight and narrow for the most part, and you had Evan Tanner, who's looking to kind of keep his foot on the gas pedal.
yeah. And so
Nelson,
one of my trainers was Craig Kimberland, and I used him. He knew a lot and just really helped me a lot. And then he was a house parent actually at Boys Ranch. Then is how I met him, and he came down there and trained me. And he would get all kinds of guys to come and roll with me out at Boys Ranch, so I didn't have to travel so far. We'd go in the mat room, and then he left Boys Ranch, and within 2 years was found guilty of murder. And so so yeah, just and they buried the guy in a grain elevator, and yeah, it was a spooky deal because a guy from SWAT calls me and says, "Hey, Jones, we're at this guy's house, and he's got pictures of you." I said, "What?" He said, "Yeah, he's got pictures of you and him together." I thought, "What are you talking about?" He said, "Well, looks like you guys are ringside somewhere." I said, "Oh, okay." I said, "Who is this?" "Craig Kimberland. We were arresting him for murder." But yeah, he was in Canada with me. He came up there, and then he was, in the very first USWF, he was in my corner. And so, yeah.
Did it surprise you that the church kind of came about?
What's that?
Did it surprise you when you heard about
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I had no idea. But yeah, he talked a good Christian game, and then he left, started dating an 18-year-old girl. He and his wife split again. Then he started being a bodyguard for a big time gambler, I guess, in Amarillo. And then from there, he started gambling, getting in some trouble and some money, and just one thing led to another, and went down that wrong road. So
did you ever deal with Andy Anderson?
I know the name, but no, I don't think so.
He was the guy that owned the naked steak restaurants that's doing like 31 years in jail, federal time.
Oh, huh. Yeah, I never had to do with him.
Yeah, he's a big Texas guy as well. Okay. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, it's a small world, man. It really is. In the MMA game, everybody just you can always kind of touch somebody if you've been around a while.
Yeah.
Kind of figure out who's who. So I just want to call. I just want to say thank you, man. I appreciate your time.
Absolutely.
You worked until 9:30 tonight. It's almost 11 o'clock, and I really, really appreciate your time, bro.
Absolutely, I enjoyed doing it.
Excellent, Paul. Thanks, buddy.
Right.
Take care. So, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you guys enjoyed that. If you guys look at the blurred background, all right, it's a long story. I'm on the south side of Chicago. Comcast has us locked in. Like you can't, there's no competition. So they raise your cable or your Wi-Fi to like $150 a month. And I looking for an alternative. I went to the T-Mobile. I'm at Sam's Club. I go to T-Mobile. The guys at T-Mobile are two kids from the inner city, from the south side of Chicago. And and if you want like a problem like this solved, these types of people tend to have a solution for it. So one of the kids tells me, "Hey, listen, man, you can't control Wi-Fi. You want the home router. T-Mobile, we got it for $50, but Comcast has got the contract. Like Xfinity Comcast has got the contract for your area." So I'm like, all right, is there a way around it? He looks left, he looks right. "We're going to put a different address on the contract." And I'm like, fuck yeah, we are. He's like, "You got 15 days to figure out if this thing works or not. If it doesn't work, they don't even charge a restocking fee. Bring it back. But that's how we're going to do this, so I can get my commission and you can get your internet." And I'm like, "Man, dude, yes, we are." Well, it lasted like a week. And I got shut off today. And then I had to call Comcast back. And they're saying, no, that router that you got to return it back to us because that account's closed. You're going to get a new router and get charged $150 to get that thing back put in again. So I had to drive 45 minutes to my mother's house, and I'm sitting in her craft room. I hope you enjoy this interview as much as I did, because it's 11 o'clock at night and I got to go drive 45 minutes home. Could you leave a review on Apple? Could you give me maybe 5 stars on iTunes? If you're on YouTube, could you please leave a comment, even if it's something that maybe not so nice? Doesn't matter. We need the comment. Please put it on there. I hope you guys enjoyed this as much as I did. Joseph Galati, man, thanks for hooking us up, buddy. Take care.
Check out the full interview on iTunes, Spotify, and all major podcast platforms.